Have you ever seen yourself sleeping while you are still awake? Have you ever felt like someone is watching you even when you are alone? I saw a man in my dream every night when I was a child. He never spoke. He just stood there with a scar on his face and stared at me. Then one day I woke up and he was standing at the corner of my room. Not in my dream. In real life. That was the night everything changed. And this story is not just a dream. It is something that still haunts me. And maybe it will haunt you too. Welcome to a true horror story. I saw myself sleeping. It always started the same way. I was 6 years old again, running through that long hallway in our old farmhouse. Barefoot, the wooden floor cold against my feet, the walls stretching endlessly, the dim yellow light flickering above me. I wasn't running from something. Not exactly, but I knew something was behind me. Watching, breathing, following. Every time I turned around, there was nothing, just the hallway growing darker. And then he appeared, the man with the scar. He never moved, he just stood there at the end of the hallway, staring with eyes like wet glass skin, pale and thin and stretched like wax. The scar ran from his forehead to his neck, jagged. Like a lightning bolt, his mouth never opened, but I always heard him whisper, "Come back." Every night for weeks I had the same dream. Every time I woke up screaming, my mom would rush in her face, pale eyes wide like she had seen the dream too. She told me it was just a nightmare, told me to pray, but I started noticing things. Shadows in corners, where there should be none, the old hallway, sometimes appearing in the corners of my vision. And once I woke up with splinters in my feet, like I had really been running barefoot. Years passed, but the dream never left. It faded for a while, replaced by school and friends and noise. But then one night in college, I saw him again. I had been drinking, not enough to black out, just enough to sleep heavy. And there he was, standing in the hallway of my dorm. Same scar, same dead eyes, same whisper, "Come back." I shot up, heart pounding, sweat pouring down my back. My roommate, still asleep across the room like nothing happened. I wanted to believe it was stress, midterms, maybe lack of sleep, but then something worse happened. I called my mom. Her voice cracked when she heard my voice, and before I said anything, she asked, "Did you see him again?" I froze. How did she know what I was going to say? She told me the truth in fragments and whispers, like she was afraid he was listening. When I was 6, I had vanished for 3 hours. The police searched the house, the fields, the woods, and then I was just back sitting in the hallway in front of the mirror saying his name, Brian. I didn't remember that part, not until she said it. And when she did, I felt something crawl up my spine. Because that name had no meaning to me, but it felt real, too real. And suddenly the dream didn't feel like a dream anymore. I started digging through old boxes, photo albums, childhood, drawings, anything that might tell me who Brian was. Nothing. No photos, no names, not even a neighbor or friend with that name. But I found one thing, tucked behind an old mirror from my room, a small paper note in my own handwriting. He is watching. That night I didn't sleep. I stayed awake, staring at the ceiling. Every shadow, every creak felt like him. The scar, the whisper, the feeling of being outside myself. I thought maybe I was going insane. Maybe I had been all along. So I booked a session with a hypnotherapist. I wanted to remember everything. And under hypnosis, it came flooding back. The woods, the cold, the mirror. He had taken me not with force, but with a smile. He had whispered stories of a world inside the mirror, a world where I didn't have to be afraid. I followed, and when I came back, I was not the same. The hypnotherapy left me shaken, but I needed more answers. I went back to my childhood home, now abandoned. The place felt smaller, darker, like it had been drained of time. I found the old mirror still hanging in the hallway, dust covering its edges, but the glass untouched, clean, almost breathing. I stood there staring into it, and then I saw him. Not behind me, but inside the mirror. Brian, older now, the scar deeper, his eyes locked onto mine. He raised his hand, and so did I, like we were connected, and then he mouthed something, "Come back." The lights flickered, the air turned thick, and for a second, I swear, I felt myself move forward, like my soul leaned into the glass. I stumbled back, gasping, but something had changed. My reflection didn't follow. Right away, it lagged just a bit, like it was deciding whether to stay or leave. I needed the truth. I broke into an old records office where my father once worked. It had been shut down for years, but some files were still stored in the basement. I searched for hours until I found a file labeled B. Clark. Inside were photos, surveillance notes, timestamps. It wasn't just him watching me. Someone had been watching him too. There was a note paperclipped to the back, "Failed subject removed from observation." I heard footsteps above, slow, careful, deliberate. I turned off my flashlight, held my breath. The steps grew louder, then stopped at the top of the basement. Stairs. The door creaked open. A shadow stretched down the steps, long and thin. I slipped behind a shelf, heart pounding. The shadow just stood there, waiting. I left the records office and ran home with the file. I couldn't sleep, so I started digging through old belongings in the attic. That's when I found. The shoebox inside were cassette tapes, unlabeled, dusty. I found an old tape, recorder, and hit play. At first it was just static, then whispers, then my own voice, as a child, describing dreams. The man with the scarred face, the mirror room, the floating feeling. But I never recorded these. I would never forget saying those things. Then I heard another voice, Brian. He was speaking to me, guiding me through the dream, telling me what to see. I ripped the tape out, my hands shaking. I wasn't dreaming, I was being programmed. I decided to confront it once and for all. I went back to the abandoned orphanage. Now a crumbling ruin, barely standing. I found the hallway from the dream, the one that always ended at the mirror. I followed it, step by step, heart pounding. There it was, a tall, cracked mirror covered in dust. I stared into it, and my reflection stared back. But then it blinked before I did. It smiled, and behind it, Brian standing over me, watching me from the other side. The same scar, the same eyes. He raised his hand and pressed it against the glass. I felt it on my chest, cold or real. I couldn't move. The glass started to ripple like water, pulling me in. Then everything went black. I woke up in my bed, but something felt off. Everything looked the same, yet slightly wrong. The photos on my wall were different. My reflection moved slower than me. I touched my face and it hesitated. I was not in my world anymore. I had crossed over. I saw him again in the mirror, Brian, but this time he was outside the mirror, watching me from a street corner, from the window of a passing bus. Always there, always silent. He never aged. He never blinked, and the scar on his cheek was always fresh, always bleeding. I started hearing whispers at night. They came from inside the walls, calling my name, repeating it again and again, begging me to remember, to accept, to let go. But I didn't know what they meant. I couldn't remember anything, and that terrified me more than the whispers themselves. I found an old journal hidden behind a panel in the attic. The handwriting was mine, but I never wrote it. Pages filled with sketches of Brian, of the scar of the mirror. One entry read, "He was the one who took me. He never let me go. He is still inside me." I confronted my reflection again, demanded answers, and for the first time it spoke. "You invited him. You gave him a name. You gave him power," I screamed, but no sound came out. The reflection smiled, and so did I at the same time. I stopped going outside. Mirrors were covered, phones turned off. Every sound felt like him. Every silence was worse. My mind was splitting. Dreams and reality bleeding into one another. I started to see his scar on my own face. It was growing. I went back to the orphanage records. There was no Brian, no incident, no scarred man. But there was a photo of a boy who looked like me. Same eyes, same face, same scar. With one word written underneath missing. I am not me. I never was. I am what was left when Brian crossed over. A shell. A copy. A shadow. He lives through me now. And I remember everything. The mirror didn't pull me in. It pushed him out. And now, there's nothing left to save. I received a package at my door. No name, no return address. Inside was a single cassette tape, labeled "Play Me." I found an old player and pressed play. It was my voice, screaming, begging, crying for someone to stop him. And then a deep voice whispered, "He is almost complete." Marks began appearing on my walls, thin, long scratches. Every morning there were more. Some formed words. "He sees you." Others were shapes. A mirror, a door, a scar. I covered them with paint. They came back deeper and darker. I saw a child outside my window, standing still, staring at my house. He looked exactly like I did when I was 7. Same hair, same eyes, same gap in the front teeth. He waved, but his shadow didn't move. Then he vanished. I found the mirror in the basement, the one from my childhood. Dusty but still intact, I looked in and saw Brian standing behind me. I turned around. No one was there. I looked again. Now he was smiling, holding out his hand. I touched the glass, and it felt warm. I am not sure who I am anymore. My memories are not mine. My voice changes at night. I sleep with my eyes open. And sometimes I wake up in places I don't remember going to, with dirt under my nails, blood on my hands, and a mirror in my pocket. Brian is no longer outside. He is here. He is me. I found a journal in the attic. It was filled with entries in my handwriting, but I never wrote them. They described moments from my life, accurate down to the thoughts I had never shared. The last page was dated tomorrow. It said I would never leave this house again. The landline rang at 3 a.m. I answered half asleep. A voice whispered my full name, then said, "He is right behind you." I turned around. No one was there, but the phone was still against my ear, and I could hear breathing. I looked in the mirror and noticed something new. A scar running down my ribcage. Thin but deep, I touched it. It hurt, and I remembered the dream where I was on an operating table and Brian said, "You are almost perfect." Tonight the house feels different. Every light flickers. The shadows move without anything to cast them. I hear my name from every corner. Whispers crawling along the walls. I see my own reflection smiling when I am not. I lie down on the floor, and I feel hands pulling me under, into the wood, into the foundation, into him. I woke up in a room with no doors and no windows, just 4 walls painted black. There was no light, but I could still see everything. My old toys were in the corner. A mirror stood in the center, and inside the mirror I was still asleep in my bed. Every night at the same hour I smell burning wood, but there is no fire, no smoke, only that thick scent of something turning to ash. And when I wake up, my bed sheets are warm and the soles of my feet are black. Something scratches inside my walls, claws slow and deliberate, following me from room to room. I put my ear to the plaster and hear a whisper say, "Let me out, let me in." I remembered a day in my childhood where I drowned in a lake. I saw the light above me, the silence, the cold, and a hand pulling me down. But I never went near water as a child. So where did that memory come from? And why do I wake up gasping? I found a cassette labeled "Play Me" in my mailbox. No sender. I played it, and it was the sound of me sleeping, breathing, tossing. And at the very end, a voice whispered, "Wake up." The tape stopped, but the whisper did not. It echoed in my ears long after the sound had faded. I looked at my reflection. It blinked before I did, and then it smiled. Everything went silent, not the peaceful kind, but the kind that comes right before something awful. And I understood then, this was never a dream. This was never a story. This was a warning, and I was too late to listen. Now you've heard it too. Good luck sleeping tonight. The end. This story has now come to an end. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more thrilling and interesting horror stories, then don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my channel. Thank you for watching my video.